Welcome to Total Carp Fishing TV, and today you join me on the bank where I'm going to be running through a piece of kit that I've been using in my own fishing since the start of this year, and that's Trakker's Tempest RS Brolly. Now, you may have seen a video when I first took a look at this bivvy, looking through some of those key features which really sets it apart from other shelters on the market. So this one's going to be a bit more of my own sort of personal feelings about the bivvy, because it is really a shelter that I've absolutely loved since I've started using it. So let's get into it now. Firstly, a little bit about me and my fishing. So over the years, my fishing has been very short sessions. Quite often I'll be arriving at the lake in dark or just as it's getting dark, and then packing up and leaving in the morning. So this for me has really meant that this speed and mobility in my fishing has been really important, and so it's been important to have a shelter that's relatively lightweight and also very easy to set up and pack down. Now, over the years, that's lent itself to using a brolly for much of my fishing. They're pretty much as light and as quick and easy to set up as you can get. But with my work, I'm often carrying a lot of camera kit as well. So there's often occasions where I'm going to need to take a little bit more kit. I still want that ease of use, but I just want a little bit of extra space for storing my camera kit, and a bigger shelter in those sorts of situations really comes into use. Now, having been around many data kits and many syndicate lakes, there's one style of shelter that really seems to shine above the rest, and that's the central block style shelter. It gives you a really stable shelter, plenty of coverage, and there's lots of really good shelters on the market that carry this sort of design, the Tempest being one of them. So when I had the opportunity to try out Trakker's brand new Tempest RS, that was an offer that I just couldn't turn down, and it's safe to say that I've been massively impressed with it ever since I got it at the start of this year. So now onto the shelter itself. The version that I've got is the Tempest RS Brolly, which is almost identical to the Tempest 100, their one-man bivvy, but the Brolly version is effectively a fully stripped back shelter. So you've literally just got the actual shelter itself, and to that I've added a full mozzie front, a skull cap which fits on top, and then also a full complete front as well. You can also get a ground sheet for it, but it's really not something that I use a lot on my own fishing, so I've not bothered with that. Now, the shelter itself is built around that central block design. The Tempest is a really tried and tested central block, and it's proved its worth over many years, and I've got to say it works fantastically well. You simply spread out the bivvy, it locks into place, and the shelter's up in a matter of seconds, really. And that's only made even quicker by the rapid knuckle system, which is one of the key features on the RS, but we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a bit. Now, one of the things that I really like about how it sets up is the fact that you don't actually need any storm poles or anything to prop it up. You can simply pop the bivvy up, put a peg or two into it, and it's freestanding. So you know that if the weather makes a sudden turn for the worse, perhaps you're doing a night out under the stars, which I tend to do a lot in my own fishing. If that rain starts to come in, I can literally whip the shelter up, pop a couple of pegs in, and I'm protected from the rain, no issues at all. As I mentioned, on the RS, you've got the rapid knuckle system, and this for me has been a real game changer. It's been a feature that I absolutely love. It's got a bit of criticism over social media, with people simply saying, how fast you need a bivvy to be. But for me, the faster and quicker I can set a bivvy up, the better, really. Why would you want something to be slower? With this, you can simply unfold it, click it all into place, fan it out, and you're protected from the elements. That rapid knuckle system is produced from the same high quality material as a central block, so you know it's going to be really robust. And how it effectively works is it's a folding joint with a spring mechanism in it. So when you close it, it simply snaps shut, and to open it again, you pull one of the arms, and that just unloads that spring mechanism, allowing you to fold it all shut. Taking apart that mechanism isn't quite as quick and simple as putting it up. When you put it up, you can literally just fling it out and it snaps into place. I found that the easiest way, and the way that I prefer, is to get all of the arms together, pull my hand underneath, I can then lift it up, and one by one, just click each of the arms out of place. And the nice thing about this is, perhaps if it's a cold, wet and muddy sort of day, then you don't have to throw your bivvy onto the floor, getting it caked in mud. You can simply pick it up, click all of those legs out of position, and because it's all on a folding mechanism, the whole lot folds perfectly in half, and you can chuck it on your barrow. You don't have any of the bivvy sat in the mud, and it really does keep your shelter in tip-top condition. So the next feature that I want to mention, and something that I think has been a real improvement over the previous Tempest, is the fact that they've now featured an integral porch onto the bivvy. And this is something that I really think is a fantastic feature, because it means that you can have your shelter letterbox style, you can keep some visibility out over the lake, but that integral porch simply means that even if you've got rain blowing in towards you, it gives you that little bit of extra protection to make sure that the rain's not blowing all the way into your bivvy. It also means that if you've got it fully open fronted like this and it does start to rain, you have obviously got that little bit more protection. And if you really need to take it to the next level, you can integrate the skull cap as well, which extends it by probably another foot or so, which gives you loads and loads of protection. That skull cap also has the additional benefit of minimising condensation inside the bivvy, and it also means that if you have had a really, really wet session, there's been massive downpours, when you actually come to pack away the shelter, you can take that skull cap off, shake that out to get rid of most of the water, and the entire top portion of the bivvy is going to be bone dry. The good thing about this is that's the sort of the flattest part where the water's more likely to sit, whereas the sides, being a nice sort of steep angle, water beads straight off that. And so what you end up with is, despite having really heavy rain, you can pack away pretty much straight away with an almost bone dry bivvy. Whilst on the topic of water beading, it's worth mentioning the material that it's made of. The Tempest RS utilises Trakker's premium Aquatex material. It's a material that's been around for many, many years, and it's proven to be one of the very best materials on the market. It's super, super waterproof, and it's also really breathable as well, so you don't get a lot of condensation buildup inside your bivvy. And another really useful feature of it is it's got a degree of mechanical stretch in it as well. So that means that when you're setting up the bivvy, there's a little bit of flexibility in there, so it actually keeps a really nice shape and it keeps tension on that material, even in changing weather conditions. It means you never get that period where you've gone from maybe hot sunny conditions to really sort of overcast and muggy and maybe some rain as well, and the materials start to sag, and then that's where you start getting dripping from your condensation. This keeps really nice tension throughout the bivvy, throughout any sort of weather conditions. It's also worth mentioning as well that that Aquatex material is almost like a blackout material, so the light doesn't penetrate the material at all. So if you have everything zipped down, completely enclosed, it's almost pitch black inside the bivvy. So if you're like me and you struggle to sleep in sort of light conditions, then this bivvy will ensure that you can get a good night's sleep. Contrary to keeping everything pitch black, as you can see, I've actually got all of the mesh windows on the sides and back of the shelter completely open, making it nice, light and airy inside the shelter. It means you're not struggling to see when you're doing day-to-day tasks, and it also means that on really hot, stuffy sessions, you can get some nice airflow through the bivvy, keeping it nice and cool so that you can get a good night's rest. And another thing with this as well is that when you then combine it with either the full front or the mozzie front, is you can actually have a good night's sleep where you're not being attacked by mozzies, which can be a real pain in the arse. Now, a thing worth mentioning about the mozzie front is that it's not got any zips in place. It's simply got a central opening straight down the middle, which has magnetic fastenings. So you can simply align all the magnets and it all sticks together. And then when you get a take, you can bust straight out through the magnets without having to faff around unzipping a door. So that's the main features of the shelter itself. And as I mentioned, there's a couple of different front options. You've got the mozzie front, as I just mentioned, and the full front, which I do also have. And that full front has loads and loads of options as well. You've got mozzie panels throughout it, and you've also got lots of different configurations for the door, so you can use it in loads of different situations. But to be honest, I actually use this shelter as a stripped back shelter, as I've got it here, completely open fronted for probably 90% of the time, putting on that mozzie mesh if it's going to be a really hot night full of mozzies, or putting on the front if I know that it's going to be really, really torrential rain. Inside the bivvy, there's also a few nice little touches as well, which are just nice additions to have. You've got various little pockets situated around bivvy. You've got two at the front here and two at the sides as well. And I use these to put all my various essentials around. So things like my receiver, I can put my receiver in one. I'm a glasses wearer, so I always put those in another pocket so I don't end up standing on them. My keys and everything like that, they can all go in those pockets. But the one thing that you've got to remember, and the one thing that I still find myself doing, is that if you do use those pockets, don't pack the bivvy away with everything still in those pockets. There has been a couple of times where I've pushed my barrow into the van and then been like, oh no, I've left my keys inside there, and I've had to wheel it back out. But in the grand scheme of things, that's really not something to deter you actually using those pockets, because they are a really fantastic feature. And another little touch as well is that on the back of the front pockets, you've even got a little hook which you can hang your wet waterproofs. So if it's been really, really raining outside, you can just pop the waterproofs on there when you get into your bivvy. So they won't just be sat on the floor, staying really wet and soggy. They'll hang up, start to dry out, so that you can then start using them again later in your session. So that's pretty much my findings of the Trakker's Tempest RS Brolly. And I've just got to reiterate that, like I said at the start of the video, I've always been a brolly angler needing to be really, really mobile and really valuing that quick pack up and set down. And since actually using this bivvy, I'm pretty certain that my actual brolly hasn't come out of my garage in the whole sort of 8 months or so that I've been using it. I've just found that the RS Brolly, when it's stripped back in this form, it's just ticked all the boxes that I've needed ticking, and it's really suited my angling absolutely to a T. So if you're interested in this bivvy and you maybe want more information, more details on those tech specs, you can check it out on Trakker's website, www.trakkerproducts.com.